We'll now call a Plan Commission meeting of February 27th to order. Roll call, please.
Hannah here.
Kipchinsky here.
Lorick here. Kavich here.
Guzikowski here.
Seifert here.
Chandler here.
Okay. We will review the minutes of February 13th, 2024. It's the last time we were together, so please take a moment to take a look. You're satisfied there's no errors, omissions, corrections, or discussion? Motion?
Seifert moves to approve the minutes of February 13th, 2024.
Lorick seconds.
Roll call beginning with Christine.
Hannah, aye.
Kipchinsky, aye.
Lorick, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Guzikowski, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Okay. Item 4 is review and discuss the report on recent common council actions. Carrie?
Council approved the following. A resolution approving a certified survey map submitted by Matthew Zastro, United Parcel Service for the properties at 6800 South 6th Street and 6855 South Howell Avenue. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Item 5 is a review and discussion on the report of recent Board of Housing and Zoning appeals. No actions currently. And item 6 is review and discuss the report on the recent quarterly Parks and Recreation Commission actions. Our next report will come out April 23rd, 2024. That will lead us to our public hearing, and that is 7A, and it is a sign appeal by Oak Creek High School, and it would allow the applicant, I'm not going to read the signs, I'm going to have Carrie do it in, but there's one sign, and it's channel letter wall on one of the center turrets, and then 2 non-illuminated signs on the fence portion of the gate structure at the stadium at 340 East Putes Road. Carrie, would you please read that in the record?
City of Oak Creek, notice of public hearing before the Plan Commission. A public hearing for a sign appeal will be held February 27th, 2024 at 6 p.m. in the Common Council chambers. The appellant is Oak Creek High School. Tax key number is 827-902-8000 at 340 East Putes Road. The request is for wall signs, a variance from section 17.0604 sub A1B, which states the maximum permitted sign area of all wall signs in the B4, B6, M1, and I1 districts shall not exceed 10% of the face of the wall on which the sign is to be located, or 30 square feet, whichever is more. A variance from section 17.0604 sub A4A, which states a maximum of 1 primary wall sign shall be permitted per lot frontage of a single-tenant building. If granted, the variances would allow the applicant to install 1 8-foot 7 5/8 inch by 11-foot 8-inch or 100.7 square foot halo lit channel letter wall sign on the center turret, and 2 3-foot 4-inch by 3-foot 6-inch or 11.6 square feet non-illuminated signs on the fence portion of the gate structure at 340 East Putes Road. The zoning of the property is I1 institutional. All interested persons wishing to be heard are invited to be present. Dated this 5th day of February, 2024, Plan Commission, City of Oak Creek. Mayor Dan Bukavich, Chairman. This is a public hearing. All those wishing to speak on the matter should approach the podium, state your name and address for the record, and address the Plan Commission with your comments. Prior to any public comment, just an overview of the request. Again, for a couple of signs on the gate structure, which is outside of the existing football stadium, which is on the screen right now. And this is the gate structure that we are talking about. The center turret has the OC logo. That's over 100 square feet. And then on the gate, they have 2 proposed non-illuminated shield signs, and those are the requests before the Plan Commission this evening. Site rendering shows the field house or the locker room building next to that proposed gate, and those are the signs that are shown that are being requested for variances. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. As Carrie stated, this is a public hearing. I will make 3 calls. Anybody wishing to speak, please approach the podium and give your name and address. This will be the first call. Come on up, sir.
Hello.
Hi.
I am the applicant, Josh Brown with Sinefex, 1827 West Glendale Avenue in Milwaukee. I wanted to provide some clarity, or at least just from our perspective, what we're applying for. To address the concerns more towards the size and the placement of the sign, in the packet, were you guys shared any street views of the sign visibilities?
Not to my knowledge.
So we had done a site survey following the application that better detailed the visibility from both roadways and between the tree lines and the amount of footage that you're actually standing back on the road. Yep, that one right there.
Okay.
These signs would have a very limited to no visibility at all. And I think that's our primary point that we'd like to share when reviewing this. And then to address the gate logos, those are a non-illuminated plaque with the primary tendency to hide the gate mechanism to deter any tampering or any sort of foul play, if you say, to get into the stadium without approved access. With that said, I think that the sign that is proposed, being a halo illumination, is a tasteful accommodation to get both the school's desired branding at a size and scale that we thought was appropriate, but balancing it out so that it's not just a big beacon of light. The halo illumination provides a perimeter glow that will also be tied to a time clock. And then talking with the school, it'll also be scheduled on and off during game time. So this isn't going to be something that's going to be blaring light all day, all night. It's only as an as-needed basis. So I think that that's something that could also go into an account while reviewing what we're asking.
Wonderful. Thank you. Second call. Anybody wishing to speak? Third and final call. Anybody wishing to speak on item 7A? Okay, we will now close the public hearing and move on to 8A, which is a consideration of the request for the sign appeal submitted by Oak Creek High School that would allow the applicant the signs we just discussed in item 7A to exist on portions of the turret and the fence at the structure at 340 East Buttes. So at this time, if there's anybody from the audience that would like to say anything, you're welcome to come up. If not, I will go straight to the commission. Okay. Christine, I'll start with you.
I have no comment. It actually looks pretty good. It's just one question. During the games, is there anyone who's going to be making sure whoever is entering and leaving are going to be monitored like you go to any other games?
You're saying who's going to be monitoring the sign going on and off?
Yes.
Yeah, so the school has a ground maintenance that would be monitoring the sign going on and off.
So,
With the stadium lights, with the gates being opened, all of that would be in the same checklist that would go on and then again off at the end of the night.
okay, how about during the training? Like the kids go to training, like lacrosse or football or something from that sort. Are they going to be maintaining it? Are they going to be...
Good evening, Scott Holler, 8180 South Laurie Lane, Oak Creek, Wisconsin. I'm also the athletic director at the high school, so yes, to answer your question, on game nights, we do have game management staff and entrance workers that take tickets and so on and so forth. So yes, the signage will always be monitored, to answer your first question. And then your second question is, we will not be turning the sign on during the day, during practice training sessions or anything like that. The switch itself will be inside the building, so no one will be able to access this other than a few people that have key to the backside door, if you will. But I think does that answer your question?
Yes,
Okay.
it does. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ashley?
No questions. Thanks.
Greg?
No concerns, I agree. I think it looks great. As the applicant said, it's pretty internal. You can't hardly see it from the street. And the lighting that was chosen seems fairly dim on the picture. So I have no concerns over that as well.
Chris?
I have no concerns either. I think it looks good. All three signs, a big sign with the two small gate signs. So I think it's good.
Fred?
I have no questions. I like the sign. It looks good.
All right, Jocelyn?
My questions were answered. Thank you.
Okay. I agree. I think it looks great. I think they're doing a wonderful job. They're keeping in the theme, We Are the Knights, the turret with the castle and the gates. This is an outstanding project, without a doubt. I actually like the sign lit. I don't have a problem with it when they want to light it. It's tucked way back from either road, whether to the north or to the south. It's going to serve a purpose. We're very proud of our school district. We're very proud of our teams. It's only appropriate we put up the right things. I just want to make a comment about this project if you're not familiar with it. And Scott, maybe you can come up and help me elaborate on this. This is a school district project, without a doubt, but they've also partnered with Bolt Construction, who's leading it. And it's also a community project for those of you that aren't aware. And Scott, I'm going to let you speak on that a little bit about the Knights Construction Program helping on it.
Yeah, just to give you a bit of history without rambling, I tend to do that, so I'll be brief. There was an existing pole barn, basically a storage barn that some of you may have remembered seeing it. It was actually built in the late 1960s for any of you that grew up in the city. We had painted it several times over the years to try to make it look as nice as possible near the entrance, but it had certainly met its lifespan. So when we started breaking down the cost of not only tearing down that pole barn, that was used for storage for our track team, for our band. Actually, track and band were the two main groups that used it for storage, and then some track equipment as well. Our Knights Construction Group actually built a building to the south, which, again, many of you have seen. So Matt Lonergan and his students did that last year, and we had been planning an idea. This new building allows not only for district storage, but also for our teams and Oak Creek Youth Football to utilize it. There are team rooms in there, not locker rooms per se, but they're empty rooms with whiteboards and things for the teams to go in at halftime and before the game. When visiting schools come to play us, they will no longer need to go into Oak Creek High School, which is always a safety concern for a number of reasons. One, they have to truck across the parking lot, and B, I don't have supervision in there other than the visiting team coaches and whatnot. Oak Creek Youth Football has partnered with this project as well, and they're going to have their own concession area there, and there's also going to be bathrooms and facilities for our referees and our officials. This is going to be used by not only football, but also boys and girls soccer, boys and girls lacrosse, and again, our track teams as well. As you know, we host many events at the stadium throughout the year. So each of those pillars actually has storage involved as well. We're working very hard with donations. We had a community goal of $100,000. We're at about $70,000 right now. Our track team is going to be doing a fundraiser here in the spring. And then the other good chunk of funding for this is going to come from our video board renewals, which this Common Council passed about 6 years ago. We have paid off the video board with the initial sponsorships that we had, and now the new sponsorships that are coming in, which will equal around $300,000, that's also going to this project. So, and I'll also add real quickly, Oak Creek Youth Football has contributed $75,000. So this is a big project. Both has been outstanding to work with. Our Knights Construction students are getting experience with masonry work and plumbing and just commercial experience that they normally don't get when they're building the house in the community. So this is something different for them, and got a lot of pictures and video on our websites and social media pages, but it's been a lot of fun, and we're on schedule, though thankfully the weather has been cooperating. So
Yep. And as Mr. Holler said, it is a community project, and if you care to be a part of it, Scott, where can they donate?
yeah, so we do have a link on our athletics portion of our Oak Creek High School website, and then we also have a QR code flyer at different locations, and then if you're on social media, it's the first thing on our Knights Athletics X page, I guess you would call it now. Or you can simply email me or contact the district office. We have a tiered donation process, so we have a lot of community members that have donated, and there'll be signage at the stadium that will list the names of the family members, a lot of alumni, and so on and so forth. We'll have signs with their names up there for their donations. It was brought up about, and I want to make this very clear, we've preserved also the work that was done 20 plus years ago by a alumni committee when they did some work at the stadium. You'll notice the red brick where the two people are standing at the bottom of the picture there. Yeah, right there. We're going to preserve all the bricks that were donated when the concession building was built by a group of individuals, including Steve Scafidi and the Oak Creek Alumni Association. So we wanted to make sure we respected that donation that took place over 20 plus years ago. We're cleaning those bricks up so they're a little more readable, and we're preserving that as well. So
Excellent. Great project to be a part of.
thank you all very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you very much, Scott. Okay, is there any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, motion?
Lorik moves to approve a variance to allow the applicant to install one 8-foot 7 5/8 inch by 11-foot 8-inch halo lit channel letter wall sign on the center turret and two 3-foot 4-inch by 3-foot 6-inch non-illuminated signs on the fence portion of the gate structure on the property at 340 East Putes Road.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call, beginning with Ashley.
Chinsky, aye.
Lorik, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Hannah, aye.
All right. Thank you, guys. Next, we have item 8B. It is review of conditions and restrictions as part of a request for North Investments LLC for a conditional use permit for an auto body, automotive mechanic, truck trailer repair, and truck parking on the properties at 8910, 8940, 9810, 9840, 9880 South Ridgeview. Carrie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this was recommended for council approval at the last meeting, and the proposal is for auto body and automotive mechanical repair, which is actually for repair of the trucks and trailers that are on site, truck parking in the center of the property. Those properties were actually combined by CSM previously, and outdoor storage. And we will talk about the conditions and restrictions for all of these items. Just to refresh everyone's memory, this is the proposed site plan combining all three properties. The outdoor storage that we're going to be talking about, besides the truck and trailer parking in the center here, there is an outdoor asphalt area that is currently fenced for the proposed towing and recovery service that is there. So turning to the conditions and restrictions for this particular use. Section 2, all requirements of Ordinance 2901 are amended by these proposed conditions and restrictions. The reason that is in there is because back when 9880 was its own property, it did have a conditional use permit that was issued in 2018. These conditions are going to supersede those since they apply to all three properties. Under Section 3, quite a few clarifying areas. A2, auto body, automotive, mechanical, truck and trailer only repair facilities, truck and trailer parking, and one outdoor storage area in accordance with these conditions and restrictions shall be allowed on the property. Other uses allowed on this property shall be limited to those allowed by the M1 Manufacturing Zoning District. These conditions and restrictions and all applicable sections of code. Auto body, automotive, mechanical repairs shall be limited to one facility per building and shall be restricted to the repair of those trucks and trailers owned by the business. Contracted or advertised vehicle maintenance and repair is prohibited. All maintenance and repair shall be performed within the buildings. Truck and trailer parking shall be limited to striped stalls and loading docks. Passenger vehicles shall not be parked in truck and trailer parking stalls. Outdoor storage shall be limited to one paved area on the northeast corner of the building at 9810 South Ridgeview Drive, which is the north building, for the towing and recovery service facility as approved by the Plan Commission as part of site and building plan review. The outdoor storage areas shall be fenced and screened in conformance with all applicable sections of the municipal code as amended and as approved by the Plan Commission as part of site and building plan review. There shall be no outdoor storage, rental, sale or display of equipment, parts, supplies, or other vehicles, including boats, recreational vehicles, and the like, merchandise or any other properties or any other materials on the property. Vehicles stored in the approved outdoor storage areas shall be licensed and in licensed and operable condition. Junk, salvaged, or inoperable vehicles are prohibited on site. Passenger vehicle repairs are prohibited on site. There shall be no shipping containers stored on the property. All recovered property items for the towing and recovery service facility shall be stored and secured within the existing building. All parking areas shall be striped, screened, and landscaped in conformance with approved site site plans in section 170505 of the municipal code as amended. All signs shall conform to the requirements of code as amended. All trash and recycling receptacles shall be contained within enclosures in conformance with section 170506A of the municipal code as amended. The number, size, location, and screening of appropriate solid waste collection units shall be in conformance with plans approved by the Plan Commission as part of site and building plan review. Detailed landscaping plans in conformance with the requirements of section 170501 and section 170505 as amended shall be submitted to the Plan Commission for approval prior to the submission of permit applications. Landscaping in accordance with the approved plan shall be installed prior to issuance of any occupancy permit. Solid waste collection and recycling shall be the responsibility of the owner. Removal of snow from parking areas, walks, sidewalks, private roads, and access drives shall be the responsibility of the landowners. Under section 4, access for the development shall be restricted to the existing 2 driveways. Any modification shall be required to comply with code and in accordance with plans approved by the Plan Commission. Parking shall also be provided in accordance with code and plans approved by the Plan Commission. Lighting shall be installed as approved by code and the electrical inspector, and plans approved by the Plan Commission. Under section 6, bulk and dimensional requirements and setbacks are per the M1 district. There are no changes there. Under section 7, time of compliance. Section A is for the initial establishment of the conditional use. There is the standard 12 months to establish. If the conditional use is not established within that 12-month period, then the applicant shall reapply for a conditional use permit prior to recommencing work or construction, or in this case, occupying and operating the businesses. B, permits shall be obtained for all fences, structures, buildings, paving, lighting, electrical, storm, water, or green infrastructure, and related prior to the submission of occupancy permits. C, compliance with these conditions and restrictions in all applicable sections of the municipal code as amended is required prior to the issuance of occupancy permits. And finally, under section 8, this is a discussion point for the Plan Commission. The conditional use permit is limited in duration to 3 years from the date of issuance of the conditional use permit, and the owner may apply for an extension prior to the expiration date in accordance with code. On the screen are conditional use criteria. The Plan Commission must find in positive findings for all of these conditional use requirements in order for this conditional use permit to move forward. And with that, there is a suggested motion for the Plan Commission to consider on the screen. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Does the applicant want to say anything before we go, or just wait on questions? Wait on questions. Okay. Commissioner Chandler, you want to start us off?
Yes, I did have a question in regards to, here we go, section 3, 3D, and 3F. So D is saying they can have outdoor storage, but then F says they can't. Maybe I'm misinterpreting that. Can you help me with those two?
So it's actually restricting outdoor storage. The outdoor storage is limited for the towing and recovery service to that one area. But under F, there's no outdoor storage, rental, sale, or display of equipment, parts, supplies, or other vehicles, merchandise, or any other materials on the property. So outside of that approved area, they're not allowed to store any of that. And there's no outdoor storage allowed for anything except for those recovered vehicles.
Thank you.
Brad?
Yeah, I have a question for Carrie. The 3-year conditional use, how did we come up with 3 years?
3 years was more of a discussion point. It seemed that the property has a few issues that need to be cleaned up. And since the conditional use permit that was originally approved for the southern building at 9880 had gone into non-compliance with the conditional use permit, this was something that was proposed by staff to allow for the property to one, be brought into compliance, and two, to ensure that compliance is maintained. And at the end of that 3-year period, if that's what the Plan Commission and the Common Council require, then they would be allowed to come, or they would be required to come back to the Plan Commission for a renewal. At that time, the Plan Commission and Common Council can extend the time period.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Guzekowski?
I think, the 3-year, for time, actually, Chief, you need to say anything first? I agree with, the 3 years of, kind of, compliance for duration. I think, that'll give us an opportunity, if there are things that we need to kind of monitor, it'll give us the ability to do whatever we need to do, by then, hopefully, so.
Alderman Lorik?
Not too much concern. I mean, this is in a manufacturing kind of industrial area. The one question I have is, if I'm looking at the site plan correctly, the asphalt area used for storage, faces right up against 94. And there is a requirement to screen it. Is that currently screened? If not, what does the applicant plan to do for screening in that area? Only because that overlooks 94. I don't necessarily think people should drive through Oak Creek on the interstate and look at whatever storage is out there.
So as mentioned at the previous meeting, it does have an existing fence around it. There is fabric on the fence, but that's a little bit insufficient because we know that fabric breaks down,
Sure.
flies off, or just, comes apart in areas. And most of the time, that does not get replaced. So screening with landscaping in accordance with the code and as part of the site and building plan reviews that are required to come back to the Plan Commission, that's when the landscaping plan would have to be approved for screening of that area as well.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Ashley?
I have no questions, thank you.
Christine?
Just a clarification for you, Carrie. Like, this is a auto shop. They have some disposal of like oils and gas and all of those liquids and fluids that used for those repairs of those vehicles. Are those going to be part of all trash and recycle and replace it in a container enclosure? This is what this is referring to?
So any kind of waste product, any waste oil or fluids or anything like that, one, they have to be properly disposed of per state and federal regulation. So that's covered by other requirements. But as far as storage is concerned, they are not going to be allowed to store any of that outside, and anything stored inside would have to comply with fire code.
And this is exactly what I was going to ask, because what is the safety measure that they are going to take to make sure that it's going to cause any issues in that, on that property, I guess?
Right. So compliance with fire code is going to be a requirement, regardless of whether or not it's in the conditions and restrictions. We can certainly put that in there, but they do have to get their annual fire inspections, and I don't want to speak for the assistant fire chief, so I will turn it over to him.
Okay.
Thank you. Good timing. Mike Havey, Assistant Chief with Fire. And I think some of the questions related to specifically the building 9880. That building does not have an automatic suppression system, no sprinkler system. Previously, because it was a legacy building in the end manufacturing, they're allowed to do mechanical repairs in there. However, we did discover there were other businesses operating there, which was non-compliance with code. We do have fire code violations cited there that need to be corrected and maintained. So those are the things that we are watching and we have an eye on. So that's why we want to just kind of bring this back and make sure that we are able to do code enforcement and make sure that they are doing what they say they're doing in the use permit.
Chief Havey, is the north building sprinkled?
The north building does have an automatic suppression system in there, and then again, it has to be tested and serviced annually. And those code compliance reports, we have to observe those every year. That it's up to the standards. Any other questions?
No.
Thanks.
Carrie, one more question. How about security on the outside? Do they have any cameras or any security for all outside vehicles outside?
That
just
I
in
would have
case?
to defer to the applicant to answer.
Okay. I believe you have to come to the podium and,
And we'll just need your name and address, sir.
My name is Ivan Vasiljevic, 13925 West Forest Knoll Court, New Berlin, Wisconsin 53151.
So you do have some cameras outside
All
for
property,
safety?
all properties under the cameras.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I myself don't have any questions going forward. The commissioners asked just about everything I was going to, and Chief Havey got up here before I forgot about him, so that's great. Because there were some questions here, and Chief spelled it out really professionally about what was in question on the South Building. So appreciate it. If there's no further discussion, motion on 8B.
Seifert moves the planning
Excuse me.
commission.
I'm sorry, before we go to motion, we do need findings on the conditional use criteria, so we just need positive votes from the plan commission that you find that each of these criteria have been met by the proposal in order to move forward with this conditional use permit.
We ready?
I believe so. And again, public health, safety, general welfare. I think Chief Havey kind of addressed that with the southern building, and that's part of the reason for the 3-year look back, 3-year time limit on conditional use, and also that regular fire inspections will now take place. I think we have satisfied that. Is there anything else that anybody else would like to discuss on that list?
How about the number C? Where does it say here that there is going to be not limited to vehicle, pedestrian, bicyclists? Where does that say in the suggested motion? Anything about some sort of vehicles or anything like that?
It's stating that there's adequate facilities for vehicular, pedestrian, bicycle, et cetera. There's probably no need for bicycle accommodations at this location. Also not pedestrian necessarily, except for going from the parking lot to the buildings themselves. And as far as vehicular is concerned, this is accessed by a public street.
Okay. All right, thanks you.
With that, I think we can continue on with the call for motion.
If the plan commission is satisfied that all the conditional use criteria are fulfilled by the proposal in conformance with the conditions and restrictions, you can move on to the motion, and I will consider that to be your formal vote on those criteria.
Anybody like the motion?
Okay, we'll give it a try. Okay, the planning commission recommends that the common council adopt the conditions and restrictions as part of the conditional use permit for the auto body, automotive, mechanical, truck and trailer repair, truck parking, and outdoor storage on the properties at 9810, 9840, and 9880 South Ridgeview Drive.
Guzekowski, a second.
Roll call beginning with Greg.
Lorick, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Anna, aye.
Kupczynski, aye.
Okay. Moving right along, we will get into item 8C, and that is review of site, building, and related plans for the residents at Oakview for a sport court, dog area, and maintenance shed on the property at 10730 South Howell Avenue. Carrie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The plan commissioners may recall that this is part of the residences at Oakview Planned Unit Development. And this development is in 2 phases and also in 2 properties now, as there was an approved CSM. The requirement as part of the PUD was that any dog park or dog exercise recreation area had to be approved by the Plan Commission, partly because where it had originally been shown was adjacent to residential properties on the east. However, the requirement still stands. So the PUD was included, the conditions and restrictions were included in your reports if you wanted to reference those at any time. But the plans are for a sport court, a dog run, and an accessory building in the southwest corner of the property. So on the left-hand side of the screen, that's the entirety of the development, and in the red box, that's where everything is proposed. It's adjacent to the existing clubhouse, so it's all in the same area. There's no access to Howell Avenue from this particular portion of the development. It's all from the central area, so those internal private streets would be serving this proposal. So the sport court will include pickleball and basketball. That is proposed to be enclosed with an 8-foot tall chain link fence, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. There's also a fenced dog area that is going to be off of the clubhouse pool area. And one of the things to note is that the reason these are in the locations that they are and not farther south is because this is already located within a portion of the existing ATC easement on the south. They have received approval from ATC to locate these fences in the easement itself. They have some restrictions on how far they can go in. They can't obstruct any structures or anything like that. And they can't put some additional accoutrements in there. So, but this has been approved by ATC. Now, a couple of things to note. For the sport court itself, there is a minimum requirement in code for private sport courts to be enclosed with actually a 10-foot tall fence. So that's one of the requirements that will be part of the conditions of approval should this move forward. And then the 4-foot tall fence for the dog area, that's fine. There's no requirement in code that a dog area has to be a certain height. Since these aren't necessarily in any street yards, the heights are not going to be an issue. However, we did not receive specific details for the fences themselves. Staff is recommending that because we're assuming that they're chain link, that just makes sense for both of them. If they are chain link, they need to comply with the residential chain link fence requirements, which is that they are black vinyl coated chain link. No lights are proposed for either the dog park area or the sport court, and lighted sport courts are actually prohibited by code, so that'll just require them to utilize the existing lights that are there for the parking lot, so there is a little bit of a spillover there. The accessory building is actually a 20 by 12 shed that is on the northern portion right across from this parking lot, and that meets all the setback requirements. They're proposing vinyl siding, and while the code has specific materials that are allowed for accessory buildings, there is an allowance for an adjustment that can be approved by the Plan Commission since the building is less than 250 square feet. One thing to note, the accessory building is actually oriented such that the overhead door is facing south. So what will be seen mostly from the street will be what's on this side of the screen, which is a small accessory building with a door. On the screen right now, just showing you a graphic of the sport court and dog area. These are from marketing materials that were provided to the residences there, letting them know that these amenities are forthcoming. One other thing to note, there is a portion of landscaping that may or may not be affected by the proposal. Any landscaping that is removed to accommodate these areas should be replaced and not eliminated, so we'll need a landscape plan to be revised if anything is changing. There were no mechanicals or utilities on the proposal, so if there are any requirements for mechanicals or utilities, those need to be screened per code. So those are in the suggested motion, which is on the screen in 2 parts for Plan Commission consideration. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Before we go to the commission, does the applicant want to say anything or wait on questions? Okay. We'll start with Christine.
Yes, I have a couple of questions. I think you have to come up to the podium with your name and address.
Good evening, Jeremy Samadas. I'm the developer, 670 North Park Boulevard, Glen Ellen, Illinois.
So one question is, why the dog area is too close to the pool? It's just kind of a weird situation what they are side to side. Is there any reason why, or are they just
It's
how the design is?
honestly, it's because it's the flattest area that we have. It just makes sense to enclose that area.
Sure. The location of that pool and the dog area, is it, I can't really tell from the entire plan. Is it far enough from the residents, so when the dogs bark and keep barking, especially with the pool being full of kids and all of that, is it far enough from the residents so it doesn't cause any noise? Or has this been considered at all?
I believe it is, but I'm also not a dog owner. So
Okay.
we like the location actually more than the original plan, which was, Carrie said, to the east. We feel this kind of brings the community together. It's an area with a lot of vibrant activities now. Summertime with the pool, we think the dog park makes sense right next to the pickleball and sport court. So we just felt that it was a nice area, easy for parking. It's flat and good accessibility with all the other community clubhouse amenities we have.
Okay. Final question. Do you have any special hours for those two activities for the dog park and the pool?
So we're planning the dog park and the sport court to be basically sun up till sundown, since we won't have lights. They'll simply be seasonal, depending on sunrise and sunset.
Okay, so they will have hours, just depends on the season.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Ashley?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Greg?
Excuse me. I'm just curious, Carrie, what's the property to the south of here?
I believe that's actually county-owned property.
I have no issue. I know that initially some of the residents, neighbors had issues with where the dog park was placed to the east and north possibly. So seems ideal for them. And with the south not being residential currently, I think it's ideal. So I have no issues.
Yeah, and just to clarify, there to the south there are no houses, so it is away from
Perfect.
all of that.
Thank you.
Chris?
My questions have been answered. Thank you.
Brad?
No questions at this time.
I do have a question about the height of the fence. So there was a selection of 8 feet versus the 10 feet. Can you provide a little more information on kind of why the difference, the preference for a shorter fence?
I wish I had a good answer to elaborate. We just, arbitrarily thought 8 foot was sufficient based on the pickleball and the basketball court. So
So no challenges with the 10-foot fence?
no,
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. As far as my questions go, 10 foot's good, and you'll meet our code to the black vinyl. Just kind of focusing on the shed. By the way, I do think these are great amenities for the development. I agree with Greg. I think the dog park here is a little better than where the neighbors were a little bit concerned. So, great amenities. Looks really nice. Just focusing on the shed, Carrie brought up the siding. And vinyl is an acceptable material these days. What are the homes done in? Will these match the homes?
they'll be exact. The homes are in vinyl.
Oh, the homes are in vinyl. And then I take it the color scheme will match maybe the clubhouse or amenity, public amenity.
Correct, as well as the exterior lights will be similar to what is on the houses and or the clubhouse.
Okay. And there's really just one light to the south. It's probably dawn to dusk as well.
Correct.
Okay. Fire chief's coming in. I just want to see if fire has any concerns whatsoever.
Actually, until he come in, I have another question. I'm sure there are some disposals or some trash or some even storage. So has this been considered, Gary, or should be enclosed, or where is located on the map?
If there's anything that's going to require a trash receptacle, the preference will be for it to be in the sport court if possible, and if not, immediately adjacent to it. It would have to be more of like a park type receptacle, not a trash, like a dumpster or that kind of receptacle. We certainly don't want a rolling cart there either, so it would be something that would look like a park-like setting. For the dog park, we would recommend a pet waste station.
Because the shed, like some people can come in and sit down and do all of that, so I would think that there would be some enclosed trash
For the
or
clubhouse,
recyclable.
for the clubhouse, there's already considerations for trash interior, but for the sport court itself, that's why we're recommending, there's nothing required,
I know.
but we're not going to require an enclosure or anything like that. Just no rolling carts, no dumpsters, a park-like trash receptacle, interior if possible, if not immediately adjacent to it. And then, like I said, for the dog park area, just a pet waste station.
Okay, thanks.
Assistant Chief Havey, is there anything on the sports court or the dog park, from fire's perspective or the shed?
Mike Havey again, Assistant Chief Fire. Really no issues with fire department on the project.
Okay. Thank you. There's no further discussion. Motion on 8C, please.
Clerk moves to approve the site and building plan submitted by Jeremy Samadas, the residents of Oak View, a sport court, dog area, and a maintenance shed on the property at 10730 South Howell Avenue with the following conditions. One, that all relevant code and planned unit development requirements remain in effect. Two, that the plans are updated to include details for the fences, including black vinyl coating for chain link. The sport court fence shall be 10 feet in height. 3, any light on the maintenance shed shall comply with code requirements for residential lights. There shall be no additional lights for the sport court or dog area. 4, existing landscaping in the area of the maintenance shed shall be relocated to the west Howell Avenue side. No landscaping shall be removed for the installation of the sport court or dog area. 5, that the plans are revised to include locations for any new mechanicals, transformers, or utilities. All mechanical equipment, transformers, and utility boxes, ground building, and rooftop shall be screened from view. And 6, that all revised plans, site, building, etc. are submitted in digital format for review by the Department of Community Development prior to the submission of building permit applications.
Guzekowski, a second.
Roll call, beginning with myself. Aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Hannah, I.
Shinsky, aye.
Lorick, aye.
Okay, thank you very much. That will get us to 8D, and that is review of a certified survey map submitted by Ashley Pollux, Thrive Architects, combine the properties at 401 West Marquette and 321 West Marquette Avenue. Carrie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Both of these properties are zoned M1, and the request is to combine the properties into one consolidated lot. This is related to the addition proposal that is in the next agenda item. So there might be a little bit of overlap here whenever we're discussing things, but this is the proposed certified survey map. There are a few easements that are shown on the southern portion of the property. There's a slight bit of floodplain that actually crosses the southeast corner, but it's so minuscule that to actually reflect it on the CSM would not change anything. Might even be a little bit too difficult to depict, so we're not requiring that it be shown here. Just to note that if the flood fringe does cross further into the property based on elevations, those requirements still apply regardless of whether it's on the certified survey map. The parcel itself will be just about 4.3 acres whenever this is consolidated, and there are no concerns for it, so there is a suggested motion for approval on the screen. Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Applicant want to say anything or just wait on questions? Okay, great. We'll go right to the commission. Christine?
I have no questions, thank you.
Ashley?
No questions.
Greg?
No questions.
Chris?
No questions.
Fred?
No questions.
Chauncey?
No questions, thank you.
I have none myself, so we will go for a motion.
Seifert moves that the planning commission recommends to the common council that the certified survey map submitted by Ashley Pollux, Thrive Agriculture, for the properties at 321 and 401 West Marquette be approved with the following conditions: that all technical corrections, including but not limited to the spelling errors, minor coordination, geometry, conditions, and corrections required for compliance with the municipal code and Wisconsin statutes are made prior to recording.
Lorick seconds.
Roll call. Beginning with Chris.
Guzekowski, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Hannah, I.
Kipchinsky, aye.
Lorick, aye.
Davich, aye. That will get us to 8E, and that is review site, building, and related plans submitted by Ashley Pollock's Thrive Architects for an addition to the existing building and modifications to the existing parking on the properties at 401 West Marquette and 321 West Marquette Avenue. Carrie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the proposal is to add on a 3,300 square foot addition on the northeast corner of the building. And part of the reason for the certified survey map that was just reviewed and approved to combine those properties is to ensure that setbacks are met. So for that proposed addition, that will incorporate offices, a conference room, vestibule, break room, storage and IT, and restrooms to allow for the conversion of the existing portion of the building that has many of those things to be warehouse, which is needed for the business itself. And in addition to the building expansion, there is a proposal for 8 additional parking stalls on the north. So what is on the screen right now is the existing layout, and this is the area in which the proposed addition will be constructed. And this is the proposed site plan showing that building addition, the new parking area, and also the existing parking that had crossed the property lines before. This part of it's not really in an industrial park per se, but there are M1 properties in this area. They all kind of share parking. The pavement crosses property lines. These are kind of legacy properties here. So that parking that is on the east part of the proposed addition, that'll remain, but there will be some improvements there for safety, for people to actually get to the new portion of the building, so a new walkway with some stairs as well. As far as the addition is concerned, all setbacks are met with that property line adjustment now. This is a floor plan for that new addition showing that conference room, the offices, the restrooms, etc. And the elevations for the proposed addition. So they are going to be incorporating split face and smooth faced CMU windows, and there will be a canopy over the addition. You'll note that there is a sign there that's not part of this review because we don't have specifics for it. They will need to get a sign permit for that sign. We didn't receive any information as to whether or not they are anticipating a change to the number of employees that they currently have on site, but we have no concerns for the parking at this time. No lighting or landscape plans were provided. We have included those requirements in the conditions of approval for Plan Commission consideration. Also, no mechanicals or utilities were identified on the plan, so anything that would be required as part of this addition, ground building, rooftop, that would all have to be screened per code. We have no concerns with any of the proposed materials that are on the screen, and this will just give you an idea of what the building will look like for the addition added onto the existing building. There is a suggested motion for Plan Commission consideration on the screen. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Anything from the applicant or just kind of wait? Come on up, sir. Name and address.
Tim Neprath, Wellspring Construction, 227 Sussex Street, Pewaukee, Wisconsin. Just a clarification on the landscaping. I saw the requirements 80% coverage across the front of the building. Is that just for the new building addition, or is that?
No, that's for the addition itself.
Okay. No further questions then.
Okay. We'll go right to the commission. Chauncey, you want to start us out?
Surely, I do have a question for the applicant. So, what are the plans for landscaping?
If we could go back to the rendering, that does show some landscaping right there across the front of the building, and actually there's a little bit more as it goes back to the door with some flowers there.
And then also the plans for lighting?
There's some shoebox fixtures shown on the rendering again. Those will have the cutoff fixtures and comply with the code.
And then finally, will there be any mechanicals? And if so, any identified locations for those?
Yeah, we had proposed a rooftop unit. If we proceed with that, we will have to screen that per the code. We may go to an internal unit instead to avoid those screening requirements.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Just one point of clarification on the landscaping, there is also a requirement for the new parking stalls to be landscaped, just with some bushes to break that up.
No objections to that.
Commissioner Siebert?
No questions at this time.
Chris?
I have no questions.
Greg?
Definitely a positive thing. I mean, if they're expanding, business must be good. I think the addition looks good. It'll look good from the street. My one question is, obviously this is their property and meeting code, they're allowed to do this. If I'm remembering I don't know what business this is, but if I remember the area, as Carrie stated, a lot of this pavement and driveways are kind of all shared in an area. Is there any, I guess, concern, or is there going to have to be any type of learning curve for neighboring trucking that might be used to pulling through that area?
No, there's actually a difference in elevation
Okay.
between the west proper and the east proper, which are now joined. So there is no traffic, there's no cross traffic through that area because of the elevation difference.
Okay, thanks.
Ashley?
Even though there is an addition proposed, there is no change in impervious surface for the site, so there will not be any stormwater or green infrastructure required. That's it from engineering.
Christine?
Yeah, even though I know it's not required, but, and the building looks very nice, maybe adding a little bit more of landscaping will making a little bit less grayish or more industrial, kind of soften how the building looks like. Again, I know it's not required, like Carrie said, and it's gonna be around the parking, some bushes there and some sort of landscaping. It's just seems like a block of concrete, just sitting there.
Just one point of clarification, there is a requirement for foundation plantings.
Okay.
So that's what Mr. Nepworth was talking about with the 80% of the facade of the front part of the addition. That still needs to have a landscape bed of 7 feet from the building. So even though this is just a rendering showing placeholders, there will still be landscaping there in addition to the landscaping that'll be required for screening the parking.
Can you point on a screen where are you talking about?
Right here.
Okay, how about the sides, not where the doors are, like the main entrance doors for the trucking on the sides? Either side, maybe to the left.
We'll make sure that the landscape plans comply with code. I'm not sure that there's really a requirement there, but certainly landscaping is encouraged.
Yes, if possible. That's it for me.
Okay. I think it's a pretty handsome looking addition. I go by there rather frequently. As Alderman Lord said, it will actually dress it up, and it's a positive thing. They're doing growth. They need more warehouse space, and they're moving offices out, accommodating with this. So, very good. I don't have any questions. Fire, any concerns? Nothing from fire? Okay. With that, motion.
Clerk moves to approve site building and related plans submitted by Ashley Pollock's Thrive Architects for the property at 321 and 401 West Marquette with the following conditions: that all relevant code requirements remain in effect. 2, that all light sources are full cutoff fixtures, shielded and directed downward, and that the color temperature of the fixtures are limited to a maximum of 5,000 kelvins. 3, that landscape plans are provided to the Department of Community Development for review and approval prior to the submission of building permit applications. 4, that plans are revised to include locations and screening for any new mechanical equipment, transformers, and utilities. And 5, that all final revised plans, site building, etc., are submitted in digital format for review by the Department of Community Development prior to the submission of building permit applications.
Guzekowski, a second.
Roll call, beginning with Fred.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Hannah, aye.
Kipchinsky, aye.
Lorick, aye.
David, aye.
Guzekowski,
Okay. Get us to item F. And that is review site, building, and related plans submitted by Frank Ells, Loves Travel, Stops and Country Store, Inc. for an RV parking space and a pet relief area on a property at 9650 South 20th. Carrie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the location of the existing Love's truck facility. I'm not sure exactly how to describe it, but I think everybody is familiar with the product that Love's provides. Been here for quite some time, and that'll come into play whenever we talk about the proposal, because there are some considerations to make for this particular proposal. The proposal includes the addition of 8 RV parking stalls. 5 will be back in and 3 will be pull-through, and a fenced pet relief area on the property. On the screen right now shows the entirety of, and this is actually in 2 pieces, but the entirety of the property, and the portion that we are going to be discussing tonight is in the blue box, which is enlarged on the right side of the screen. So what I want to make sure that everybody understands is that this property was first developed in the 1960s. And that had the building basically right smack in the middle of the property, and that's kind of how the property developed and redeveloped over the decades. Right up until the 90s, that was pretty much the configuration. In this area, there actually was, if you may recall, a passenger fueling station with a convenience store and a car wash. That actually was discontinued sometime between 95 and mid-2000s, and everything was demolished by 2013. So this area had historically had something developed on it. And at this point, what we're talking about are additional parking stalls and a dog park. And when I say dog park, it's really just a fenced area for pet relief. With that in mind, there are a couple of things to keep in mind with the proposed parking stalls as well. Each will have their own electric, water, and sanitary hookups. While the original proposal included a kiosk, that has been eliminated. Then there will instead be an informational sign that will guide people to where they can register for the night to park in one of those spaces. The sign is not included as part of this review. They will need to get a permit for that as well. So when I mentioned the history of the development of the property, that's important because while the code requires that parking should be to the side or the rear, with this property, there's no side or rear that you can really go to. And we also have in the code the consideration of the physical orientation of the lot. You can see that it's kind of a triangular piece that had historically been developed in the way that it has developed. This is really the last portion of the property that can accommodate any kind of development, because on the southern end, there is extensive floodway, floodplain, and there are wetland areas. So this would really be the extent of the build out for the property. The closest RV stall in the proposal is also about 25 feet from the property line, and the property line does not go to the road itself. So there's about 30 feet between the edge of the road and the nearest RV parking stall. We don't have any setback requirements for a dog run area, pet relief area, as we mentioned in a previous application, but in this proposal, they are proposing a 4-foot tall black vinyl coated chain link fence around this. We don't have any dimensions, so I'm not exactly sure how big the dog run area is. And they're about 25 feet from the road as well, or from the property line as well. The one thing that we will caution the applicant, we don't have any control over it. There is an existing easement there. It's not the city's. So we just recommend that they verify that putting a chain link fence in that easement is okay with that easement owner. We did also receive landscape plans. It's a little bit difficult to see on the screen, but the dog park does have screening along the north side and a couple of drifts. They are showing trees there as well. The bushes that are proposed for screening are between 18 and 3 feet, and it depends on where it is. So that'll have some softening effect for that. And then that bush line, the vegetation actually continues southward so that it partially screens that new RV parking area. There is also a drift there, and 3 trees that are proposed along the street side, so the 20th Street side of the property. And per code, we do have a requirement. Any canopy trees must be installed at a minimum of 2.5 caliper. Understory trees are required to be installed at a minimum of 1.5. So we had a couple of trees that were proposed that didn't quite meet the requirements. That'll just need to be updated in revised plans. No new lights are proposed for these areas at all. Any mechanicals or utilities that would be required as part of these amenities would have to be screened per code, and that would either be through landscaping or through an enclosure. So with all of that in mind, there is a suggested motion for consideration on the screen. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Applicant and anybody like to say anything on before we get to the commission? We will.
Have it. My name is Mandy Goss. I'm with CESO, the engineer on the project. My address is 13060 South US Highway, DeWitt, Michigan, 48820. I always want to do my home address. Thanks for having us here tonight. With this addition, I will say Love's did purchase that property in 2010, and they're the ones who did the demolition before the 2013 date. So just to kind of give that history, that was not part of the original Love's development. So that's why it was added into the parcel later. So just kind of wanted to point that out. The dog park area, just to give you an idea, it's about 200 feet long and 25 feet wide, just for information. And I know there was one other thing I heard her mention. If, as far as, I know the landscaping, we're happy to do whatever is needed to meet the codes. That's not a problem. So happy to answer any other questions you might have.
Stand by. Christine, you want to start?
Yes. Question number one, the angle of those, how can I call it, trailers, they are on an angle. They are too close to that dog park. How is the maneuver of those trucking gonna happen?
Yeah, you can see on the screen right now, there is some the RV maneuverability. We did run it through auto turn, and those are designed to accommodate a standard larger RV or travel trailer, situation. The idea is you obviously enter and you back into the spaces. I don't know if you've ever been to an RV park, but you never pull in straight, you always back into them. So you would enter, you would pull through on the driveway on the left and then back into the space and then pull out towards the right, circle back and exit. Unless you do the first 3 spaces, those are pull through. So you would literally just pull in and then from the main road and then pull out and circle back around as well. So there is room for everyone to have room to park, give them some space to move around, do any other slide outs, so they can be there for the evening.
Okay, so you have 5 slots for those RVs. How would people know on the road if they are full instead of coming in and doing all of those maneuvers and this and that?
So there's actually an online website for Love's. They've been doing RV spaces at multiples of their sites. I think they have it now at like 30 locations. They're working on getting it in more. And so you actually just go on their website and you register for an RV space. You get it reserved, so you know exactly what space number you have. So when you pull in, you know where to back up. And then they're provided an email where they click it, and then that opens up the utilities for them to connect. So the utilities are not like an open, somebody just can't pull in, dump, use the water. They have to pay for the evening in order to utilize the utilities.
Oh, that's perfect. The last question is signing. Do you gonna have to add signing at the Love's to say, well, we have RV parking or?
No, the only, it's all done on their websites. Most of the people who utilize this will go and search for an RV site on the Love's website, and it'll tell you what locations have it. Only sign that we have is like a small registration sign that tells them where to go online to register for the night. So if somebody does just pull in and decide, hey, I didn't do my research, pulls in and wants to register, they can pull right up to the sign, scan it, logs right in, check out a space, and back into the spot.
Okay. And you said this is all gonna be screened from the street by some landscaping and trees?
Correct. There is landscaping proposed all the way around the perimeter.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Ashley?
So green infrastructure is required for the site. It is shown on one of the plan sheets, so that plan was submitted. We're currently reviewing and working with the designer on comments.
Yep, and we did receive those comments. I actually just got revised plans back today. Only thing we will need to address still, I know once we resubmit, is the geotech and wetland delineation, which that can't occur till spring. But we definitely are aware of them and are happy to address them and take care of them.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Greg?
So I know that these are referred to as RV parking spots, but with electrical, water, and sanitary, they're like campsites. Is there a limit to one night and these people are leaving, or is there any prevention of long-term?
I mean, long term, it would be quite pricey. I mean, they do charge $45 to $55 a night, which is a pretty typical rate for an RV space. It varies. I would have to look, I don't know exactly what these ones will go for, but there is a limit. I don't believe they allow them to stay for more than 3 nights, I want to say it was, or up to 2 weeks, but it's not. Usually most of the people that use these, they're staying 1 or 2 nights if they're going somewhere local, or they're doing it on a drive-through. I know my uncle travels from Colorado to Michigan every year because my aunt's paralyzed and they bring their RV. And this is the type of facilities they look for, so they can hook up, have a restroom, have their facilities, and have the accessibility needed. So most of the people who utilize these are more of your cross-country drivers, or they're trying to get from one place to another and not have to stop for a long term at like a large campsite facility.
Okay. And then I guess question for Carrie, as a city, are we able to do any type of conditions or restrictions to prevent that? I know it's not normal that people stay, but I mean, I've never heard of this before, but I'm assuming it's nationwide, but it'd be odd to kind of have long-term camping along Ryan Road right there.
We have regulations regarding campsites. So if this becomes a campsite, we could apply that regulation to this, but the 3 nights to 2 weeks, preferably there would be a limitation of 3 nights max. But as far as enforcement, as long as we're not getting complaints of people living there, that's really the maximum of what we can do.
Okay.
Unless there's something that I'm not recalling off the top of my head, but yeah, it just can't become a campground, and that would also require, I mean, the rub is that they're providing services, they're providing utilities, so it kind of gets us out of another area that we could say, well, you have to connect to certain things in order to have living for a certain amount of time, but I think it would put them into a campground situation.
Okay. Okay, I think that's it for now.
Thanks, Greg. Chris?
I agree. I think we're almost on the verge of a campground. I wouldn't be in favor of, and if we even went 3 days as a max for length of time, but maybe 2 days. This is my opinion.
Fred?
Okay, I'm not totally in favor of it because I have a feeling it could end up to be a campground. People have a tendency to park and want to enjoy the area, and the next thing you know, they're there for a week. I just think that you would end up filling that park with people that want to stay for more than just an overnight. So I think the location is not the most ideal spot. So I'm not in favor of it.
Yes, I do have a question about the lighting. So to our understanding, there won't be any additional lighting added?
No, there is not. The lighting for the facility for the existing facility will be there still, but for the RV, most of those people have their own lights on their campers if they need them. Again, there's no picnic tables. It's not intended to be your, campground mindset as far as where you're hanging out and having a bonfire and socializing. I mean, they don't have those at these. They don't have those necessities. It's more of a stop in, get them off the road, give them a safe place to sleep, let them empty their septic tanks, fill their water, and be on their way.
And then another question that I had about the distance from the stalls and the dog park. So is there something to prevent those RVs from going all the way back to the dog park?
Yes, there is a curb stop along the back, so that as far as their wheels would stop it from going too far into that location.
Okay, and how far is the dog park from the parking structure? Okay.
Oh, sorry. Looking, I would say it's probably 15 to 20 feet. I don't have the exact dimension, but looking at the parking spaces are 20 foot deep. It's within that, close to that range, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Guess I'll throw my 2 cents in. So, this is a rather large truck stop, without a doubt. It's another amenity. I do share your concerns with how long they'll be there. And, you know, thinking back to the days when Summerfest went 10 days, I could see somebody traveling up here, maybe spending that period of time. But I think they're restricting it. You said 3 days to 2 weeks somewhere in.
Frank Gilly was supposed to be here tonight. He's with Loves Directly. There was some miscommunication. So we were here last night for the education board meeting and he had to fly out today. So he apologized that he couldn't stick around for the meeting tonight. So I don't know the exact protocol with Loves on that. He would be able to answer that better.
I would agree. It's not a traditional campground. There's a lot of traffic moving there. There are going to be people coming in and out. Dog park's only there to relieve the pets they're traveling with. Makes sense from that standpoint. I have seen these in other parts of the state and the country, and they do serve a purpose, and many people do travel by RV, and they look for this. I don't really see people making residents of it. We have had that in some public parking areas along the interstate as of late, and I know that's a concern to a lot of citizens. We definitely don't want to encourage it. But again, these are really expensive units. I just don't see anybody setting up for a year's stay. That's my opinion on it. And Loves also, I guess, you know, they have some say-so in this as well, because not only are they going to service the RVs, I would think gasoline and everything else that they buy at the stores go with it, so they really want people coming in and out more than staying put. Just my point of view on it. If it has to be somewhere, I think this is the appropriate place within a truck stop. So, Carrie cited our ordinances. I think we'd be able to make sure our ordinances take care of it.
If the Plan Commission wishes to put a maximum time limit on the individual, well, there would be a maximum time limit for a single RV to be parked on site. I think that gets a little tricky, honestly.
But, so if a person came in, let's say we set it at a week, and the person took spot, let's say number 1, spent the week, and then said, okay, I'll leave, I'll come back this afternoon and rent spot number 2 for a week. So, you know, I think Loves is going to actually police that better themselves than the city probably.
And the store manager does monitor these very closely. They don't want to have that problem either. You know, I mean, they take pride in their stores and the cleanliness and the safety, and they definitely keep an eye on these parks as well very closely, just like they do the rest of their services.
Any other questions, comments before we call for a motion?
I do have one additional
Yes.
question, Carrie, about the easement and getting the okay from the owner. Do we have to put anything in?
No,
Okay.
it's already built into the code. They have to
Okay.
get permission from the owner of that easement.
Okay, thank you.
And I can say, that was one other thing I forgot earlier. We have been working with the electric company. We need to just do a soft dig to see how deep their service lines are in that easement location. So we have had communication. We're going back and forth with them, and we are working with them on that.
Okay, I have actually 2 questions. Number 1 is, like you know, Pilot is a big, huge truck service gas station. So how is the turning movement and the crossings and all of that gonna be safe for all of them to go in and out and
For the Love's development, we're utilizing the existing access drive that is there. They will pull forward and get out of the way, so they will not block the cars that are coming in and out of the site. So as they would enter, they would go directly to the left and get into that middle aisle, or pull into, if they have one of the pull-through spaces, will pull in and get out of the way as well.
So I'm looking at the median of 20th Street. I don't know if it's gonna accommodate if there is a car going in and out. I don't know where the north and south is, but it may be blocking the traveling lane.
For which space, I'm sorry?
If you look at the median on 20th Street,
Okay.
okay, do you see if a truck is coming out or one of those RVs?
Okay, so that is not a truck drive specific in that location. That is the auto drive. The truck drives are to the south of the building.
Okay. That's not what I meant. What I meant when they are moving out, going left or right, regardless, okay? And they are waiting for their turn just to kind of move in and just go either direction, north or south, okay? And there is no, I don't see any storage for them. The median is not wide enough for them to get stored in there, so they're gonna be hanging out outside the median.
They would have to wait for traffic to clear to exit, just,
Okay.
like there's not like a storage space in that median. They would have to wait traffic to clear from both directions. If they were to go left, we would anticipate majority of these people are going back to the expressway. So they're gonna go right out, go right on Ryan, and then head to the expressway. So that would be more in what I would anticipate for the traffic on when they exit the site.
This is a question maybe for engineering. Has this been considered maybe a temporary traffic signal or something to kind of help with that situation and movement, or it's just a question, I guess.
So we're not aware of any known issues, incidents, or anything like that. There is an additional lane out there, so we haven't had any issues with backups or conflicts or history of crashes or anything like that. So it's something that we can monitor and look into, but we're not aware of any known issues at this time.
Okay. My final question is safety. All of those RVs don't know each other, and they're all living very close to each other. What is the safety measure that pilots are taking to ensure that each of those vehicle residents are safe?
I mean, Love's does have stuff in-house as far as safety for their sites, but this is very similar spacing that you would see at any RV park or any location for a campsite. It is not abnormal compared to any other use that is similar to this. Most of those places have locks on their doors. The safety, it's no different than a vehicle, that's parked in the parking lot.
So there's no cameras outside to monitor this area at all or anything from that sort?
They do have certain cameras on site. I don't know if there's not anything slated for this specific area. If might pick up from one of the other locations, I don't know with this site specifically what the views are on the cameras. But
Okay.
safety for something like this is typically not an issue or a concern.
Okay.
And if they do see it, they would probably add some additional cameras.
Okay, thank you.
Before we do the motion, Assistant Chief Havey, any concerns from fire on the RV? Okay.
Just have a question about enforcing the time limit of who's responsible for that and how do you maintain it? I'm talking 3 days, a week. To me, that seems to be a concern because people can move in and
It's similar to like a hotel. You check out, you check in, they're gonna make sure they're not gonna let you stay and camp out without paying. Again, the utilities shut off, so they would lose the use of their water, they lose the electric, use of the Wi-Fi. It is all space specific based on the purchase. So it kind of self-regulates in that realm as far as it's not like just an open flow of water and sanitary and electric. So I mean, if they get past their checkout time, they're going to lose all their electricity. They're not going to have facilities to stay in that location.
well, in some RVs, you don't need any utilities. You have it all contained.
And Love's the store managers would also go out and make sure that they exit the premises.
The first point would be Love's. They're not gonna let you sit there for money-making stalls. If it escalated any higher, I'm sure they would, contact the Oak Creek PD if there was an incident going on or anything like that, just like anything at the truck stop. There's a lot of things going on down there. So, it's really up to Love's if they want to have a respectable business, make sure that they're maintaining their
Well,
brand.
I'm just afraid once that park fills up, then you're gonna start moving into the parking lot. People are gonna park outside.
There's not hookup there.
That's a potential, you know, you have just 7 spots, now you got 10 people that wanna stop. I'm just mentioning that you could have a problem with the parking outside.
No, I mean, there are spaces on site that accommodate just RVs to pull in and use the facilities and leave that are used today. It's just they don't stay overnight. Again, those are not intended for overnight stay. These spaces are intended for overnight stay.
I just want to mention also, has anybody looked at the north park and ride off of College Avenue?
I've brought that up, and I have. Again, I think this is a better situation because there's a business interest taking care of it. And I've talked to the county about that. I've talked to the state about that. The Oak Creek PD has addressed what lies within the city of Oak Creek on the College Avenue one southbound as well as Ryan Road. And I know that's a concern. And again, it's an unfortunate thing that people are doing that until they find a way to do it. People find themselves in homeless situations, or they choose to be it. We had a big discussion at ICC about this. As sad as it is, it's not a crime to be homeless, for whatever reason it may be. We definitely want it cleaned up. We definitely do, but at this point in time, it's a new problem that's developed over the course of the last year or so. And the county and the state are both looking to ways to address it. It's not an easy problem to address because it is a public parking space. And that gets trickier where this is not a public space. This is a business space, so Loves can call in and say, have them removed or ask them to leave.
I'm just about concerned the overflow.
Possibly, but again, I think the responsible traveler is probably looking for that spot, going where they are. I don't doubt you're going to have things like the Harley Festival and people come in for a long weekend and maybe tow their motorcycles and things of that nature. But I just don't. And I could be completely wrong, but I share your concerns with what's going on at the park and rides. We don't want that here, but I think the difference here is it's private property versus public property. But I'm not a lawyer, I just pretend to talk like one at times. But legit concern.
And I think the campground section of the code would still speak to if there was an issue with somebody who was on the property and we could somehow document that they were on the property longer than whatever the campground, whenever that campground section of the code would kick in. We could then say, Loves, you are, as the property owner, in violation of the code because this is the section that is now kicking in. You need to address this.
And our code is a living document. And as I said, we're seeing an influx of different social problems going on. And, first and foremost, we want to provide the aid and the help we can to the individuals. But, sometimes as society changes, so do ordinances and codes based on need. And we do have a fluid living document within our city codes. So, if campground needs to be enhanced to include something like this, maybe that's something we look at.
We don't actually have any campgrounds in the city with spaces like this.
Yeah, per se.
I think the closest campground is actually south of Oak Creek,
Jellystone?
whatever the name of it is now, I think, yeah.
Bear.
But we still do have the code, and we can rely on the code.
I'm just clarifying, is current zoning, is campground unallowed use in the current zoning?
I don't know
Okay.
off the top of my head whether or not a campground per se is allowed in the B4 district. I would have to look that up. But if it turns into a situation where the campground section of the code would then apply or come into play, we could say campgrounds are either allowed or not allowed, conditional use not allowed, no conditional use. But you have a situation where you're turning into a campground and that was not approved.
Okay.
I think this is per se a campground.
No, and I agree. I'm just wondering if people do start staying there weeks on end, can we then say, well, now it is a campground because you have people staying multiple weeks in a row, and campgrounds are not allowed.
Correct, we have
That's
to
also-
really look at the zoning ordinance and the definition of campground.
There's some protection for the city.
Right,
To
and like I said,
prevent.
I don't know what the campground section states off the top of my head, but I do know that we have it in there.
Okay.
Well, I have another question here. If we don't have something in the code or something to define that for those RVs, then any gas station or any large lot can come in and say, well, they don't have any requirements for the requirement, they have the space. I want to have some of those stalls also installed on my property, and we suddenly can find ourselves in a situation where they have it, then everybody can have it.
I think that with these smaller gas stations, you are going to be hard pressed to be able to accommodate these, and this is not a campground. It wouldn't be allowed to have a campground. If one of the other gas stations or fueling centers within the city wanted to incorporate something like this, they would have to come back before the Plan Commission, just like Love's is right now.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a gas station. It could be any other facility, another developer, something from that sort that they want to add some of those campgrounds to make some money.
I think there's still going to be a requirement in the code for it to come before the Plan Commission, whether it's a conditional use situation or whether it is even allowed. In this particular case, we're already at a fueling facility, and it is part of a truck stop, and there are truck centers, and there are allowances for those kinds of things in truck centers. But just a regular gas station probably wouldn't apply.
Do you know if Love's allows trucks to spend the night, like a trucker to get a rest, stay there overnight?
Yeah, in the truck parking to the south, there is overnight parking, because, it definitely, there's a lot of parking to the south for this facility for the
So
truck.
this is nothing new, it's just a different type of vehicle.
Yeah,
It's already
exactly.
happening there.
And across the street, they have the same situation.
It's just, maybe we have to add some sort of another condition or something that kind of define what exactly can be, what can be allowed and when and.
I think once we get into a situation where if people are staying there and it triggers the campground section of the code, then we can apply the campground section of the code and say that's not allowed.
Because there is a lot of developers out there close to, especially on Ryan Road, that they have tons of trucks, they are parking there, and they can think, oh, they're doing it across the street, so maybe we should do that and spend some money, save some money, and let them spend the night by our lot.
There's
Nothing to stop them then.
No, that's not the case. There are situations where if they're doing that illegally, we would have to apply the code. If we know about it, we'll look into it. That doesn't mean that every place that allows for truck parking allows for overnight parking or allows for automatically for people to come and install RV stations like this. They would still require review and approval by the Plan Commission at minimum.
No, I'm saying if they come in here and they ask to be approved.
Every single proposal is based on its individual proposed, I don't want to say merit. What I want to say is the particular situation for the lot itself. Can the lot accommodate it? Is the location appropriate? Does it meet all the other code requirements? Somebody could come in here and ask for it, and we could say, sorry, it doesn't apply. It doesn't matter that it was allowed across the street. You don't have a situation that allows for it to be accommodated here. Every proposal is based on what is proposed for that property, not what's next door necessarily.
It's a little bit gray area here.
I don't necessarily think that suddenly everybody is going to be putting RV stations on their properties, but again, they would have to come before the Plan Commission. There is that requirement. They would have to come before the Plan Commission and get approval.
Again, I don't think until the situation shows itself, because this is private property and they're gonna police themselves more than anything. They start to break code, as Carrie said, we'll apply the code at the appropriate time. We've done that throughout the city with other type of truck parking that was illegally done, and we've had a ton of it. We've had more conversation than I care to have in the last 2 years about it. And we'll apply it as we go, but to just throw a dart at an ordinance and say, let's just put a rule in effect, when the problem isn't there. I think we first let the problem show itself, so.
And Mayor, they're also, they're already staying overnight.
True, the truckers are already, they have sleepers. They're already staying for the evening and then going on their routes.
We don't have anything in the code that would prohibit them from staying a week or more. This is a truck stop. It's built into the requirements for that type of use. We don't have anything that I'm aware of in any of the approvals for either this site or the site next door that says anybody who is parking their vehicle on that property is limited to a certain time frame.
Okay, are we ready for a motion?
Sure.
Okay,
Lorick moves to approve the site and building plan submitted by Frank Ill Loves Travel Stops and Country Stores, Inc. for the addition of 8 RV parking stalls and a fenced pet relief area on the property at 9650 South 20th Street with the following conditions. 1, that all relevant code requirements remain in effect. 2, permits shall be obtained for any sign on the property. 3, that all new mechanical equipment, transformers, and utility boxes shall be screened from view. And 4, that all revised plans are submitted in digital format for review by the Department of Community Development prior to the submission of permit applications.
Guzekowski will second.
roll call, beginning with Chauncey.
Chandler, I.
Anna, I.
Kipchinsky, aye.
Lorick, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Seifert, no.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Get us to item G. And that is a plan review of site, building, and related plans submitted by Hayday CR Devco LLC for a storage structure on the property 2119 West Putes Road.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is part of the Hayday development, and the conditions and restrictions for that PUD are included in your packets for reference. So the proposal is for one accessory building on the property, and similar to one of the other applications that was reviewed this evening, it is for the storage of maintenance equipment for the development itself. And it's also located on the interior to the development, on the private portion of Apple Creek Drive, and it's on the southern portion of some buildings that are in green. So Building 9, which is, if I can go to the left-hand side of the screen, where the cul-de-sac is, that's the end of the public street. So the private street continues down, and into the development, there's this building here, and the proposed accessory structure is actually south of that building, and it happens to be right about in line with it. So in that case, it appears to meet the setback requirements. The materials that are going to be used are similar to the same the materials that are used in the other buildings for this development. Similar in architecture as well to the, it's not a clubhouse, but it's a mailroom and office, leasing office. No lighting plans were submitted, but they do need to meet the code for architectural accent wash because they are proposing sconces for the building itself. So that limits the number of lumens on the building. The materials themselves, stone base and vinyl. Due to the PUD approvals, vinyl has to be specifically approved by the Plan Commission. And landscaping, similar to the other application that was reviewed this evening, anything that's disturbed, that would, anything disturbed for the placement of this building would have to be either moved or replaced in kind. On the screen right now are the proposed renderings for the building, again, similar in architecture, height, and materials as the remaining buildings on the development site. With that information, there is a suggested motion for Plan Commission consideration. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Any applicants left in the room? So, we'll go right to questions. Chauncey, you want to start us out?
No questions, thank you.
Fred?
No questions.
Chris?
No questions.
Greg?
No questions.
Engineering will just have to verify with the grading plan, things will work, but it's a relatively flat site, so we don't see any issues.
Christine?
No questions.
Okay. I have none either, so we can go with the motion.
Lorik moves to approve site building and related plans submitted by Heyday CR Devco LLC for an accessory building on the property at 2119 West Buttes Road with the following conditions. 1, that all relevant code requirements remain in effect. 2, that architectural accent, wash lighting, and well lighting, including wall-mounted lighting and ground-mounted lighting, located within 3 feet of a building structure, shall be integrated with the architectural character of the building structure and shall use low luminosity lamps with 2,000 source lumens or less. 3, existing landscaping in the area of the proposed accessory building shall be relocated on site. And 4, that all revised plans, site building, lighting, landscaping, etc. are submitted in digital format for review and approval by the Department of Community Development prior to the submission of permit applications.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call, beginning with Christine.
Hannah, I.
Pachynski, aye.
Lorik, aye.
David, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
That will get us to adjournment. So,
I have one announcement.
oh, you do?
I do. So, we did not receive any applications, nor did any of the applications reviewed tonight get carried over to the next meeting. So, ladies and gentlemen, you will not have a March 12th meeting.
Wow, that's a rarity.
Yeah, it is.
That is a rarity.
What am I gonna do now?
Come in and we can chat if you want, but I figured I'd give you guys the night off.
Wow.
Thank you.
Keep in mind, things, well, no, they wouldn't meet the timeline.
They don't meet the timeline. We've missed it by this time, so the only reason that we would have to hold a meeting is if there was any business that you needed to conduct, or if you had any questions, wanted a training session, which I personally would recommend we postpone until a later date.
Oh,
Sure.
excellent. It is strange
No
when you
objection
have a
here.
Tuesday with nothing to do.
I think just the way that the applications came in, the deadlines were such that everything was pushed to the second meeting in March. That's just the way it
So it
happened.
means you will have a long meeting.
So the next meeting we're
Yes, the March, I believe it's the 12th. The first meeting in March will be canceled. The second meeting in March, we do have items.
Cheap movie night
yeah.
The next meeting is when?
I think it's the 12th. Let me double check that. The next regular meeting would be the 12th. That's canceled, so the meeting on March 26th will be your next meeting.
Well, that-
Anything else, we'll all meet at the
a welcome announcement. Okay, with that, somebody want a motion to adjourn? We don't have Dawn today.
Lorik moves to adjourn at 7:48.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call, beginning with Ashley.
Pachynski, aye.
Lorik, aye.
David, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Hannah, I.
Okay, night, everybody.